So I'd say regardless of how you feel about the ending of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, whether you loved it or you hated it or you were just plain confused, I think we can all agree that it still has people talking and coming up with different theories on what exactly was happening. And there is a new theory that kind of crosses over with the theory we talked about previously, which I'll reiterate later in the video, about what's happening at the end of the game, and that we might actually be looking at a real Aerith and not some nefarious projection from Sephiroth and Jenova. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. And warning, obviously we're talking about the ending of Rebirth as well as OG FF7, so there will be big spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can click away from the video. So just kind of as a refresher, the theory that I subscribe to at the end of Rebirth is super dark and it's super twisted, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like it, and it really aligns with characters like Sephiroth and Jenova. And essentially, to try and kind of recap that as quickly and concisely as I possibly can, it all takes place at the Forgotten Capital. We see Sephiroth descending from the heavens to impale Aerith and kill her right in front of Cloud. Why does he want to do that? He wants to break Cloud. He wants to get rid of Aerith, who is this really powerful equation that he can't control and has been giving him problems for a very long time now. And in that moment, we see a couple of things happen. We see Cloud deflect Sephiroth's blade. There's also a rainbow effect there, which we will touch on later. But we also see an outcome where Aerith does die, which does happen in the original game. And this is where things get kind of weird. We see two different outcomes essentially happening. We see Cloud crying and breaking down, holding a dying Aerith, but we also see an outcome where he's calm and none of that is happening, and Aerith actually reaches up to reassure him. That stuff is a little bit confusing, but the theory we touch on later will kind of go into what exactly is happening there. Everything plays out, that big battle ensues. The party, as well as Zack and Aerith, are able to stop Sephiroth. Sephiroth is clearly very upset. He even remarks to Aerith like, "Damn, I underestimated you." But then he has this look on his face like, okay, I think I've got a backup plan. He takes off, and then we see the party at the Forgotten Capital mourning Aerith, except for Cloud. He has this moment where he's sitting there, he gets this Jenova headache, and then suddenly this spirit Aerith shows up to his left. And I myself and many other people think that this is not the real Aerith. There's just something about that scene that feels off. And granted, these are subjective feelings. This is just kind of how you look at the scene. But looking at Aerith in that scene, it's just kind of off-putting. Something doesn't feel quite right. She seems kind of eerie, almost dead-eyed in a way, and the music they're playing in the background is a bit unsettling. We then see the party out in the open field. They're fixing the tiny Bronco. They're about to take off, and that version of Aerith is there. Now, the theory that we're all kind of going with, at least I am and some other people, is that the Aerith we're seeing in that moment at the Forgotten Capital is not the real Aerith. It's not live stream Aerith. It's a projection from Jenova and potentially Sephiroth of their version of Aerith to mess with Cloud's mind, to make him think, oh yeah, Aerith's not dead. You know, what happened at the Forgotten Capital is kind of blacked out in his head, but he does not think that she's dead. She's fine. He can see her. He can talk to her. And that just really kind of reinforces the unreliable narrator aspect to Cloud for the rest of the party. And leading up to that moment, Cloud's been having all of these weird situations where the party is second guessing him. They're like, what's going on, man? Like, you need to get your head on straight. I think Barrett even refers to Cloud as a space cadet at one point in time, which is kind of funny and super rude. And him talking to this imaginary version of Aerith that's been created by Jenova and Sephiroth just makes him even more unreliable to the party, and it starts to break down that trust. The only thing that is kind of confusing is that at the end there, when they're in that open field, that could potentially be the real Aerith that we're looking at, the live stream Aerith that's going around and interacting with people and reassuring them. And even Red 13 notices like he can feel her presence there. So that may actually be the real Aerith. And again, there's all these different versions of Aerith that are showing up. There's potentially the Jenova version of Aerith that is mistrusting. There is the Omni Aerith that's in the live stream that, you know, is battling Sephiroth as we speak. There's a lot going on there. This new theory, which comes to us from a Twitter user by the name of Turquoise Hammer, puts forth that maybe the Aerith that we are seeing is in fact the real Aerith. And this is actually pretty interesting, and I'll leave a link in the description below to the entire thread because it is super detailed. They provide a lot of descriptions, a lot of images to kind of reinforce their theory. There are some things that don't quite work out, some holes within the theory, but there's also holes in the one one that I, subscribe to. But essentially what Turquoise Hammer puts forth is that at the Forgotten Capital, when Cloud swings his sword and deflects Sephiroth, he actually is doing that successfully. And again, we see that rainbow effect, which we don't have clear confirmation on what the rainbow effect is, but it seems to be related to choices that characters are making. When a character makes a new choice, that creates a new world, essentially. Not a timeline, but a new world. And we see that with Zack at the end of the game, where he's trying to figure out, do I go after Biggs and save him? Do I go to Shinra Tower and find a way to try and help Cloud and Aerith? And we see all of those rainbow effects accompany those different decisions that Zack makes. And again, we used to use the phrases and words of like timelines, but Nojima, the scenario writer for all things FF7, has described it not like a timeline or a multiverse, but all of these different worlds are essentially existing within the live stream. So that's how we tend to look at things now. But essentially in this moment, Cloud is superimposed in two different worlds. He's in the real world where Aerith is in fact dying, but he's also created this new dreamscape because of that choice he's made. And the whole goal here, obviously, from Sephiroth towards the end of Rebirth is convergence. He wants to bring all of these worlds together, inflict as much pain and despair as he can, and feed off of that to gain power. In that moment, that's why he, is one of the reasons why he kills Aerith, is because he's trying to break Cloud. He wants to break Cloud sooner rather than later so he can speed up his plans. But what he doesn't take into account, and this is what Turquoise Hammer adds to the theory, is that the Aerith we see being held by Cloud that reassures him, that puts her hand up to his face, is in fact livestream Aerith projecting herself into Cloud's new world to reassure him, essentially to protect him from breaking down even further, which I actually really like. And this is something we've touched on in prior videos, but I pointed out that it really seems like Aerith is trying her best throughout Remake and Rebirth to kind of protect Cloud and prevent Advent Children from happening. She doesn't want him to break down and feel all of this guilt and sorrow and pain that leads him to become who he does in Advent Children, which brings back Sephiroth, and they then have to stop him again in the future. It's almost like she's trying to fix him in real time and prevent all of the machinations from Sephiroth from taking over to break him. And again, in that moment, Sephiroth wants to break him as fast as possible to gain all that negative energy, but he doesn't foresee and take into account Aerith popping up from the live stream and preventing it, which is one of the reasons why when you go into battle with Jenova after that, everyone is feeling anger and despair and all of their limit gauges are full, except for Cloud's. And there's even a move too that Jenova does where, I forget the name of it, it might be like Morning Whale. It's a move where everyone takes damage from it and it pushes characters back, except for Cloud. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I had a moment where Cloud got hit with that move, but he didn't get blown back. Why? Because he's not mourning. He doesn't think Aerith is dead. The rest of the theory plays out and they stop Sephiroth, but there's a really great key moment there where, again, I pointed out where Cloud and Aerith are able to stop Sephiroth, also with the help of Zack. Zack is in his own world fighting Sephiroth on his own. He eventually does, link up with Cloud and they stop him. But in that moment, Sephiroth is like, okay, I underestimated you, Aerith. You've beaten me. I think Cloud says something to the effect of, why is he still smiling? And in that moment, Sephiroth realizes, okay, my plan may not have worked out here. I underestimated Aerith. I didn't foresee that she would project herself to prevent Cloud from breaking down. I also didn't take into account that she was going to save Zack, because Sephiroth was full on going to wipe out Zack in this world that was being destroyed by what looked like a meteor. So he was looking to eliminate another person from this equation, but he was stopped. Cloud remarks that something is not right. He's smiling and Sephiroth flies away. And I think what's really interesting about that moment is that Sephiroth realizes he can do a number of different things now to break Cloud. And this is kind of where my theory that I subscribe to deviates from Turquoise Hammer's theory, where again, I'm under the belief that Cloud is hallucinating this Aerith. It's a projection from Jenova and Sephiroth, because Jenova and Sephiroth are two beings that are so petty and evil that they would full on take advantage of a crumbling mental state from Cloud and fool him into thinking he's interacting with Aerith. It's really sick, it's really twisted, it's super dark, and that's one of the reasons why I like it so much. But Turquoise Hammer again believes that this is a real Aerith in this new dreamscape world that Cloud has created, and Cloud is essentially like dream walking. I can't remember the actual term, but I think there's a term in real life where you're able to kind of like traverse the dream world in the real world, if you believe in that stuff. So he's essentially got, 1 foot in one world, 1 foot in another, which is why he can see Aerith. No one else can, but he can also see that crack in the sky. So he's seeing things that the others aren't able to. And Turquoise Hammer also believes that because of the convergence, Zack and Aerith are now pulled back into the main world, which I don't quite know if I subscribe to. That seems, I don't know if that really works, rather. And I'm pretty sure, and please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure the party stopped the whole convergence thing, right? Like that was Sephiroth's goal, is to converge and feed off of all of that negative energy, but they stop him in that moment. From what I remember, it's been a while since I've, played Rebirth. I'm going to go through it again later on and just kind of refresh myself. But we do know for a fact that Zack, again, was saved and he's in a different world. And it is very likely that the world Zack is in the world of the main party. He's just back in Midgar in the church. And that would be a really cool aspect of Remake Part 3, is getting to play as Zack, getting through Midgar and having his own journey to try and catch up to the other party members in the Northern Crater. And you'd have these really cool moments where maybe, when we lose Cloud later on, Zack could show up, maybe fill in that role, which I think won't happen. The more we hear about Remake Part 3, it really seems like, again, they're going to stay true to the original and have Sid and Tifa really step into those leadership roles once we lose Cloud, especially Tifa. Like, this is going to be Tifa's game. She's the one that's going to have to take over. She's going to be leading the party. She's the one that's going to have to help Cloud put all the pieces back together. But what's really, really devastating, and I believe this, and Turquoise Hammer also believes this as well, and it's just so sick and twisted again. It's very Sephiroth. But later on, when the truth gets revealed to Cloud, and I use truth in air quotes because we know Sephiroth lies to Cloud, because again, his goal is to confuse him and break him down even more. But what if, later on when they're in Nibelheim revisiting those flashbacks, Sephiroth reveals to Cloud, yeah, I didn't kill Aerith. That was actually you. You're the one that stabbed her. You lost your mind. You've been feeling this soldier degradation. You don't know what's real, what's not. You're not in control of yourself 100%. And if he wants to, he's probably powerful enough to project an image of Cloud killing Aerith. And in that moment, Cloud is going to look to Tifa like, is what he's saying true? But Tifa wasn't there. Barrett wasn't there. The rest of the party was not there. They only got there when Cloud was holding Aerith's body, which would fool Cloud again, and that would break him even further. Like, damn, not only am I degrading as a soldier, but I killed Aerith. It was me. This is all my doing. And that's when Cloud fully succumbs to Sephiroth's control, breaks down, gets put into the wheelchair, has to go to Mideel. And then later on, when Tifa's helping Cloud put 2 and 2 together and fix his memories and he becomes the real Cloud, that's when he and us as the players will live through the entire scenario as it played out, from Aerith being stabbed to Cloud laying her down in the water. It's going to be a really, again, cathartic moment for the player. And that's what's super cool and meta about this whole scenario, is that Sephiroth's plan is to feed off of the negative energy, right? But it's not just from the party, it's not just from the world, it's kind of fourth wall breaking, in that he's reaching through our TV screens and our monitors to feed off of our anger and sadness and confusion to enact his plan. It's super cool, and I really love how, in depth a lot of these theories go. But in that moment, Cloud, I think, will see the real Aerith, the live stream Aerith, projecting herself to him, which is something she can do. She's done multiple times in 7 Remake. She's done it in Rebirth when she shows up to, help him in the battle against Sephiroth. And in that moment is when Cloud will have his peace with Aerith. He will understand what happened, and he'll be able to hopefully feel acceptance, which is a big theme in Final Fantasy VII, along with loss, is we lose people, but you have to accept that they're gone. And that's what Cloud is struggling with right now. He cannot accept, and this was backed up by the developers at the event that was held recently in Riyadh, Cloud cannot accept the truth. He cannot accept that Aerith has been killed. He's seeing her, out in the world. He's talking to her. Aerith's not dead. You guys are crazy. But that's what he has to accept. Aerith is gone. Zack is going to most likely die again because it's what has to happen. Everyone has their moments of acceptance in this story. Yuffie with her family, Sid with the situation in Rocket Town, Vincent in the role he played with Sephiroth and Hojo and Lucrezia. Everyone has a moment where they accept things. And this is Cloud's moment to accept what happened and that it's not his fault, thus preventing an Advent Children from taking place and the party stopping Sephiroth for good. And speaking of acceptance, who is the one character in Final Fantasy VII and in the Remake trilogy that cannot accept fate and the way that things happen? Sephiroth. That's why he's doing all of this stuff. He cannot accept his future, his fate. And if Cloud refuses to accept what happened, he's no different than Sephiroth.
Stay where you belong, in my memories.
I will never be a memory.
So I just thought that was a really fascinating take on this theory that some of us have been marinating with for a while. And again, props to Turquoise Hammer. They put together such a detailed thread on Twitter, and I'll leave that in the description below for everyone to check out. There's some really great stuff. And again, regardless of how you felt about Rebirth's ending, the fact that we're all still talking about it, you know, months later, I think says a lot. And I just can't wait for the developers to speak on this even more. And what's crazy is that they've been doing that. The Riyadh event, for example, we didn't think we would get stuff about the ending of Rebirth leading into Remake Part 3, but they gave us that. So it's pretty likely that they will start revealing more stuff about Remake Part 3, either late 2025 or, you know, early to mid 2026, if they do plan to get this game out by 2027, that is. So with that being said, that is the video. Let me know down in the comments down below, what theory do you personally subscribe to when it comes to the ending of Remake? Do you think that Aerith we're seeing is a projection from Jenova and Sephiroth, or are you more in line with Turquoise Hammer and their theory that this is a live stream Aerith trying to intercept all of the machinations from Sephiroth? Let me know in the comments down below. I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.